And in the upper right here, in the red, going for a bit of an early pool, it's RagnaroK.
And his opponent, spawning down on the bottom left for the Shopify Rebellion, it is Lambo. Now this is a build that's a little bit funky because it is, by all accounts, off meta. This is a 14 pool. This is an Overlord 14 pool as well. So what this is going to look to do, this is going to look to sneak out onto the map and find some damage with those early 6-lings and start the game off, start the series off with a very funky setup. Now, this is pretty bold. Because this is not where the best of 5 starts. This is just a best of 3. So you don't really have a lot of maps to kind of give away on niche strategies, but it shows a lot of confidence that he's willing to open up the series with this.
Yeah, certainly. And even if this is a best of 3, right? So you really, yeah, technically you have one map to give, but you don't want to really even give that one away. The nice thing about a build like this is it can set expectations. You talked about how Cyril versus RagnaroK did a lot of really interesting things, or RagnaroK did a lot of interesting things with off-meta gas timings and things like that, where, you know, game 1 set the wrong expectation for game 2, game 3, and you know, a 14 pool, 16 gas, 16 hatch is so far off meta that it may put some fear of God into Lambo moving forward. And hey, maybe a couple drones here early on is a nice start anyway. So one drone is going to hit the deck, and, well, RagnaroK sections off a couple more to go deal with the lings in the natural, but it's the main that we really care about here. So how many workers have gone down? Seems like only one for right now, but a couple lings as well is a solid start here, Steadfast. And pressure on up. Oh, he's going to get the queen.
Oh, he's going for it. It's trying to slip away. Oh, the juke. Is there enough? We do see a speedling all in behind this. RagnaroK is stopped mining gas. Lambo is supply blocked a little bit here. The queens are so important. He will, in fact, lose it despite getting into a good position. Lambo, does he know what's happening? He's got no idea.
No.
Starts up a layer. He is in so much trouble.
You talked about off-meta gas timing, Steadfast. Well, yeah, getting a lair against this is,
It's not ideal.
I don't know if it's the worst possible thing, but it's up there.
It would be fine if there was a wall started up. Lambo is going to try and go for the scout. He's going to see this now. What is his response? How many queens does he have out? Just the one. There's the wall trying to come up, and it will be a full wall, but it is going to have so little HP. The lings are going to rip through this in a matter of moments. That one queen going down from earlier was a big deal. RagnaroK not splitting up his lings as effectively as he could. That is going to give Lambo a lot of time to re-wall. Very nice re-wall behind this as well. And there is a lot of angle. Oh, you got to pull this one queen back. Got to pull it back a little bit here.
He can do the creep trick.
He's just going to lock it out.
Maybe. Okay, so he let one Evo Chamber die, which is actually a really solid decision, right? Because you have Broodlings to fight. I thought he was going to try to go for the Creep Tumor trick, but that actually didn't end up happening. So the rewall continues forward. Spine now on the way, Steadfast. But even with that, I mean, that's
just a spore to emergency wall.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, it's a smart thing to do. Can Lambo hold here? The transfuse was good, but he's going to lose this one Evo. That spore might end up being his saving grace. This has been an excellent defense so far from Lambo, but this is so many Zerglings, and they are inevitably pushing through. They have broken through, and they will take game number 1 here. There's nothing left for Lambo. The drones are going to pull, but GG will get called. You talk about expectations. RagnaroK, I don't think anyone could have expected this type of a build.
Nope. Excuse me. Some great expectations were dashed, I guess, there. Did he cancel his lair, is my question, because we saw what was happening, right? We saw the, what's the word? We saw, you know, the wall and the queens in the wall, but his Baneling Nest was so delayed. It wasn't done by the time that happened, and I was looking at the production tab, but I want to say the Baneling Nest started maybe a third to half the, like, around the same time that the secondary wall was happening. And I'm just looking at that, and it's like, well, okay, you know, if he'd canceled the lair and gotten the 100 gas from that back so he could have a Baneling Nest and built the Baneling Nest pretty much immediately, by the time the lings punch through, then you have Banelings just right in the wall. And, you know, that worked in part because the lings were able to punch through. They were able to burrow through. They were able to get on top. But if you have just a couple banelings sitting there, the lings can't run through a narrow gap. They will all get exploded. So,
he did cancel the layer, yeah.
Okay.
But it was too late by that point. He'd already been full bamboozled. The bigger issue is that he tried to start ling speed.
Oh,
instead, and didn't go straight into that. But regardless, I don't think there was going to be enough time to start up a baneling nest at a like obviously if you don't start up ling speed, that's it right there. That's the money. But it was always going to be extremely difficult, and you're in uber crisis mode at that point.
Yeah.
Like, it is so difficult to deal with.
Yeah, you're running on instinct too, and if instinct doesn't work out well for you, I mean, what are you gonna do, right? That is totally fair. I'm just looking. It's like, it's a bunch of lings through a choke. Banelings love to live on that one, but at the end of the day, right? It was a weird build coming out of RagnaroK. It was off meta. It was weird timings, and that's what we'd love to see. But Royal Blood is map 2, and I am always tempted to talk about the gold base. Clearly, we're gonna see something. Obviously, I don't think we're going to see that in a ZVZ. No matter how crazy RagnaroK is, those gold bases are very, very far out there. So in general, Steadfast, the question is, how does RagnaroK take this 14, 16, 16, or 14, 15, 16, whatever the gas timing was? How does he take that and use that expectation, use what he's kind of forced into Lambo's head in game 1, and what does he turn that to into game 2? Because I don't believe for a second that RagnaroK's decision-making, that RagnaroK's build in game 1 was just to go and was just like a single game strat. It was in part to set expectations for game 2.
Yeah, I don't think that we're gonna see something particularly different from the. Well, sorry, no, we're definitely going to see something different. But yeah, no, it was absolutely to set expectations. I think that, like you said, it is going to be a part of a package deal, a package play. But as far as what the actual build will be for game number 2, I think there's so many options. He could go for an extractor trick 15 hatch, that 15, 14, 13, and do a speedling all in. He could represent that and go into a quick layer of his own. Regardless, I think anything RagnaroK does that's a little bit funky is going to have even more teeth in game number 2 than game number 1.
Yeah, and that makes sense because Zerglings, they have a lot of teeth, just like we have a lot of reasons to get into game 2. And in the bottom left for Mystery Gaming in the red, he's up 1-0 here off of a pretty awesome timing. It's RagnaroK.
And his opponent spawning up at the top right for the Shopify Rebellion. Can he respond? It is Lambo. And yeah, even if it's just a build order in a vacuum, it's such a great build order to come out swinging in a best of 3. It is high risk, but I mean, you got to risk it for the biscuit. At this level of play, you gotta come in with some things that are a little bit funky, but the 6 lings, obviously they occupy the attention of Lambo very effectively, and that's gonna give you advantages. It's not even really something that costs you much, but it is showing a little bit of respect, just a tiny bit of fear against some of these early aggressive plays.
Yeah, and it's funny, you say this is not going to make that big of a difference, but what it will do is give 5 seconds, maybe, on the speed timing. And you might say, that doesn't matter. But with these players, as they do tend to get aggressive on the map a little bit, ZVZ is very much about, vision, denying vision, but also how much presence you can establish on the map. We can often see, okay, well, 6 lings on the map versus 6 lings, they start fighting. One set of 6 lings or 8 lings, whatever it is, gets speed just a little bit faster. They wipe out, they force everything back. They force everything back. They wipe a couple out, and then all of a sudden, you have all the map control in the world. So we see, there we go, RagnaroK speed. It's what, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, something like that. But in this matchup in particular, with how much you have to play on the map and how much you have to establish presence, that actually might end up mattering in a way that 5 seconds of a stim timing, right, or 5 seconds of a blink timing would not matter in the same way.
Well, the funny part is that actually Lambo did have the gas to start ling speed right away. He actually didn't start it. He actually missed the timing a little bit and could have started it simultaneously. But regardless, I don't think the ling speed timing should be too much of a deal. It should only come down to like a small ling skirmish potentially, and that'll only be the case if RagnaroK has more lings. But it is still something that I think, especially the maybe discomfort that Lambo is showing, maybe trying to cross too many T's, dot too many I's, could be notable. We are going to see a small little burst of lings, but I think we're just going to see that as safety from both sides. It is a few more than we normally see. Like normally you don't go higher than 8 or 10. And RagnaroK is building technically one extra set, and we will see one Zergling going down on the bottom side, but that was just kind of a scouting ling anyways, so not too big of a deal. But here's the big deal. Lambo gonna start up a Roach Warren in the back, a second gas in the main, and with this 2-building wall off on Royal Blood, these fast Roach plays with the quick second gas are so common on this map.
Yeah, and it's so hard to get a scout on it as well, right? Like on most maps,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, on most maps, you have it's a 3-building wall, right? That's generally the thing. So it's Bailey Nest, Evo, Roach Warren, double Evo, Roach Warren, something like that. But because both players have opted into a Bailey Nest here, and as we say that, by the way, heavy pressure on the way from RagnaroK right now. He's popping some Overlords, of course. Yeah, I think he was briefly supply blocked, but 8 Banelings on the way, 12 Lings as well. And we talked about the Link Flood idea. Lambo's got some fun ideas with Roaches, but Steadfast, the question now is whether RagnaroK even lets him get there. These Queens are totally exposed.
Oh, they are, but the Banelings are out. He does lose 2 of these. Banelings in a natural will get dealt with. We are going to see... I think there was actually a moment for RagnaroK to run through there. The Roaches didn't quite have the wall plugged, but RagnaroK kind of fumbling it a little bit. Lambo now has a bunch of Roaches. If he just crosses the map right now, RagnaroK does not have a Roach Warren yet. He doesn't have that second gas yet. He did commit a lot of resources to this Ling Bane setup. Now, fortunately for him, because there's still so many Lings alive, it is a little bit tricky for Lambo to move straight across the map, and that will give time for this very smart spine crawler from RagnaroK to come on up. Lambo, he is going for it. And he is going for it. There is a Bane in the wall.
Couple Roaches now. Steadfast, the thing we have to remember, by the way, Lambo can't produce at nearly the same speed that RagnaroK does. He doesn't have any Queens. They're all dead. But now the Lings, they're gonna eat some pretty significant Baneling connections. Here's one Baneling runs forward, gets damage on the spine, which is honestly kind of all you need to do. Here's the Banelings will now fall down, so Banelings come crashing into Queens. Not what you want. They can transfuse, but even still, the spine goes down. The Queen does as well. And yeah, RagnaroK has some Roaches on the way, but here's the problem. He's got Lings in his opponent's main base, but Steadfast, I don't think these Lings are going to get nearly as much damage as the Roaches that Lambo has on the other side. He's catching Roaches of RagnaroK as they start to spawn. Now they're going to find their way into the third. And yes, this might eventually stabilize. Actually, you know what? It actually will stabilize. Lambo, because he was so distracted at home, he's going to have to reset, go again, but that is time.
Yes, but this is very good for Lambo right now. This is the smart decision. He saved those Roaches, waited for the next round of reinforcements, and now he is going to be able to get on in here. He wants to wait, of course, for the Ravagers, but if he can get a wrap around against the wall, very nicely done. Few Lings from RagnaroK are going to come on in. The Baneling from Lambo, a little bit late, but it will get into the party. And now the Roaches, the Ravagers, they show up, and Lambo, he is going to trap the majority of this army against the wall. +1 missile was never canceled for RagnaroK. That really could have come in handy having those extra resources, but it won't come into play here. And I think Lambo, he can just kill this third base. He's got to be a little bit careful about kind of splitting his attention, but I think he's got this one in the bag right now. +1 missile does complete, so the Roaches of RagnaroK, they're going to do great in a 1v1 fight. But, Lambo, he's got to be a little bit careful with the positioning, but now he should have this one. He should be able to camp his opponent's production right now.
Yeah, it's funny if you look at this, right? You say, well, the army supplies are starting to equalize. It was a 20 gap, now it's 10. But the problem is everything that RagnaroK has is in production. It's coming out in bits and bobs and piecemeal, and that is just not enough here, especially as the drones are getting folded. Look, Lambo may eventually get forced out. It seems he's going to be forced out of the natural for the time being, but he's gotten so much damage done here. His lair is halfway done. He's droning up behind this. He's got a 13 worker lead. He still owns that army supply. And yeah, you know what? +1 versus +0. You're right. It's strong. It's powerful. But Lambo, of course, he's got his +1 on the way, and he's going to have more. He has the ability to produce in a way that RagnaroK doesn't because, well, we talked about how Lambo lost all of his queens earlier. Now RagnaroK's the one. He's got a single queen on the map. He doesn't have the ability to inject. He can't, he's not going to have as much larva as Lambo will, even as they're on 3 bases.
Exactly. And even though RagnaroK does hold, it's less so RagnaroK holding, and it's more so Lambo deciding to win this game in the next couple of minutes. Now, anytime you don't actually flat out win a game, it can create weirdness. It can give your opponent opportunities. But because Lambo started up his +1 missile so quickly, because he droned out of it so effectively and he got so much damage done, RagnaroK right now is simply not going to be able to match the production of Lambo. And with that layer being so quick from Lambo, the transition, I mean, I think if Lambo just starts to move out basically right now and just holds down that R key, RagnaroK should really have no chance of holding, realistically speaking, even with RagnaroK building units off of a far inferior economy. And Lambo, well, we should be going to game 3 as long as he doesn't pretty much fall out of his chair. Does get a little bit supply blocked at 130, but he's got Overlords finishing up. And, oh, I love this. The addition of pooping down some creep to increase the speed of reinforcements, that's just going to make his job even easier. RagnaroK, he stayed in this game, and I can't blame him, but he's got to recognize that he took a ton of damage.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's done a good job setting up a concave as well, but yeah, more stuff at a certain point just kind of beats less stuff here. So the roaches are going to get on top. Roach speed just means you have a better ability to reconcave and a better ability to take up a one fight and really dominate it. So Lambo, he takes us to game number 3. Steadfast, no one is getting knocked out. Not just yet. We have another game to play. But that also means that we have one map for your best ZVZ strat, one map for your best opportunity to make sure that you stay alive. Because, well, the end of all things, he who loses this next map is out of the tournament. Which, you know, for players of Lambo's and RagnaroK's character caliber, that's always going to be a disappointment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, RagnaroK, runner-up in GSL last year. He came top 4 at IEM Katowice. He knocked out Cyril at IEM Katowice. We don't look at RagnaroK as this like superstar because a lot of the times he gets to the very end of these tournaments, and sometimes he doesn't look, you know, he doesn't look like a player that would be in the top 4 of IEM Katowice or would be in the GSL finals, but he absolutely earns his way to those spots. It's just sometimes, particularly against Maru, and that's who he got knocked out in both of those. Particularly against Maru, he has like, I think Maru is maybe the hardest counter to RagnaroK in terms of one player countering another at that level of play. But RagnaroK is super legit. So either one of these players getting knocked out here would be a disappointing end of the run for sure.
Yeah, certainly. I love you talk about a hard counter. I think RagnaroK is down like 70 maps against Maru all time. It's kind of crazy. But what's also crazy is that game 3, we don't have to wait for it anymore. It's right here. And the bottom right in the red. His shenanigans worked once. They didn't work once. Let's see if they can work a second time for mystery RagnaroK.
And his opponent spawning up at the top left for the Shopify Rebellion, it is Lambo. And we do have to kind of call a spade in terms of build orders. I wouldn't necessarily call it a build order counter, but I would say that anytime that you stop building units or stop building drones at about the same time, and one of you goes for a ton of Lingbane, and one of you goes for Roach Lingbane, and the defender is the one that has Roaches, that is absolutely an advantage for the Roach player. Now, granted, Lambo was able to leverage that to a victory, but it wasn't as simple as it could be. And I mean, that's why we play StarCraft. If build orders just won you games, no one would be interested. You know, if it was just a matter of like, oh, well, you know, this build order straight up won me the game. There absolutely has to be the ability to, do inputs to press the buttons and make magic happen. And RagnaroK, with that counterattack, he did get some good value, but it wasn't enough, like you said. And yeah, it ended up with Lambo taking the game, but it was certainly from a position of advantage.
Yeah, it bought time, but unfortunately, Steadfast time is very expensive, and that's a lot of lings for not really enough time. So as we move into game 3, I kind of expected RagnaroK to do something interesting at the start. I mean, he did the what was that, the 14 pool in game 1. He went for a ling flood in game 2. He's been setting this expectation of aggression, but it seems like instead of, I mean, he may still flood lings later on, of course, that's always a possibility. But it seems like in this game, instead of leaning into the expectation of aggression and doing it again, the series planning for him says, I've built this idea of aggression. I built this idea that I'm going to attack and go forward, and I'm going to turn that into a more standard play because, hey, Lambo, you got to be careful. Like, I have hit you with timings 2 times in a row. They've gotten damage both times. You're going to have to play a little safer, and maybe I can find an advantage off that. I mean, look how early the Bailey Nest is.
Well, this is actually quite interesting for RagnaroK. So RagnaroK, he did actually get his gas just a teensy bit earlier this game. So he is going to have a slightly faster ling speed this game. And he took 2 drones off of gas mining. So he is going for a little bit of a speed ling flood. He also did something very interesting where he kept one of his drones in the main base. Lambo is going to be the kind of player that will count drones. So he didn't transfer that down until the Overlord would have for sure left. And now we are going to see RagnaroK skipping the Bailey Nest entirely. Lambo, he will have that fast Bailey Nest in order to build a couple of defensive Banes and try and hold his third, but this is going to be a little tricky for him. And RagnaroK not able to get the catch on these lings, so that faster ling speed didn't avail him there. But Lambo, I mean, he's going to have to be a little bit careful around this third base, but the 4 Banelings should be enough to hold this.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you commit to something a little bit. It does provide some pressure. I mean, the half damage on the hatch is really nice, but
he's focusing it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's trying to get it down. Banelings right
Oh.
side, but they're going to zone it out. Couple extra links.
Nice.
Oh. But
that was an outstanding defense from Lambo, but RagnaroK, that was a really disrespectful play, to be honest, to tunnel vision that and just say, Lambo, I don't think you're going to be able to defend this. And it kind of costs RagnaroK. Look at the resources lost. That is a lot of lings that went down. He did get this hatchery very low, and he's building roaches now, but mostly these roaches are defensive in nature. As we can see, he's droning back up. Great little counterattack from Lambo here. He's, oh, yes, he will get that second drone. That was like, I think that was only 5 lings, 6 lings. 6 lings for 2 drones. Those are leftover lings. That is amazing for Lambo. Now, Lambo did add on a second gas and a roach ward. He is going to be going for the aggression here. I don't know if I like the idea of this with his opponent having defensive roaches.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, going back to the third base, one of the nice things about being able to surround a hatch, right, is it's a little harder for Banelings to get really good connections. So I can maybe understand because he did have that full surround and it was getting so low. That being said, Lambo hasn't built himself much of an eco lead off of this. He hasn't built himself much of a tech lead off of this. The idea to go aggressive is, I guess, more on this idea that he thinks RagnaroK is going to be droning up behind it and being greedy behind the aggression has often happened. So that's where he's going to try to kneecap him. But as you so rightly point out there, RagnaroK got himself a little supply blocked. Had to pump 4 or 5 overlords at the same time to find his way back into it. And now with +1 ranged on the way, I mean, he's being greedy. And Lambo, this is a big army.
It is a big army, but RagnaroK sees this little lane set up on the right side. That's big. That's actually huge because Lambo was looking to run by into the natural expansion with this. Lambo is going to try and clear out this one overlord, but this is Lambo's taking so much time right now, and RagnaroK, his economy lead isn't huge, but it is notable. Lambo is really trying to mask this move, but RagnaroK, oh my god, he actually started 6 more drones. He has been bamboozled by this. I thought for sure this was going to be like a silly overplaying your hand move right here from Lambo, but it is not. And once again, this +1 missile, this time RagnaroK needs to cancel it. He needs the resources.
Yeah, so Spine on the way at the third, and Lambo's still waiting. He wants all the roaches to arrive. He wants the Banelings to morph. He wants to be able to hit with one big Sledgehammer. So here it's gonna come. Roaches set up a decent concave. 8 more are on the way, but it's a 20 army supply deficit. Lings are gonna get right on top, and there we go. That's what you want to do. You don't go into the natural here. You just jump on top of the army, all marooned alone. The Lings and the Banes are gonna zone the natural out here, and Lambo, he wins the fight on one flank. So now the second one is gonna find its way in. Lings on this round on top of everything, and a transfuse does absolutely nothing here. Steadfast. Roach is on top of everything. Lambo, the bamboozle is complete. RagnaroK, short of miracles and mysteries, will not find his way back into this